Timeless. Please join us out on screen. Yes. 1, 2.
What's up, everybody?
3. Yeah, we did it. All right. So today's conversation is all about the DJ life, and we're going to talk about the experience and how DJs really create space and influence culture. And all of you have been able to do that throughout your careers. So before we dive deep into today's conversation, I just want to do brief introductions, just about who you are, sort of how long you've been in the game, and that's pretty much it, because we're going to get to everything else throughout the conversation. So Jahi, we'll start with you.
My name's Jahi Sundance. I've been DJing since I was 14. I'm 41, so that's 27 years. And yeah, that's it. I've been DJing 27 years. Long time.
Omega, how about you?
How you guys doing? I'm DJ Omega. I've been DJing since I was 12 years old. I'm 36 now. From Philadelphia, but based here in sunny LA.
Yes. Domo?
Hi, Domo. I've been DJing for like 4, maybe 5 years now. Born and raised in the DMV,
So let's start this conversation off on like influences, right? And I've been able to sort of read up on all of you all and who's been able to really influence your sound and who you look to when you're creating vibes. And Damo, I want to start with you. When creating sets and when thinking about music and getting into DJing, who were some of your biggest influences?
That's kind of a hard question. I think I was very influenced. I wasn't necessarily influenced by other DJs more than I was the city that I'm from. So I don't necessarily have like these people that I idolized. I didn't really have that much. I think I really did look up to a couple of the DJs that were from my city who I felt set the scene, but I didn't really have DJs that I idolized that way.
Yeah. How about you, Jahi?
Yeah, I came up in a different time where you had to idolize a DJ in order to learn how to DJ, right?
Yeah.
So there was no options. So you couldn't learn on the internet and you couldn't learn from a DJ school. So, and other DJs kept all of the fine points and technical things secret. So they actually wouldn't tell you unless you would carry their crates or work with them somehow. So I grew up with a lot of DJs in my neighborhood who I actually idolized, you know what I mean? Those guys were the guys that I looked up to because they were doing it, you know, DJing out of their cars and putting the speakers up and setting up all their stuff. Those were my guys. And then beyond that, one of my favorite DJs has always been DJ Premier.
Oh. Omega, how about influences for you?
What's up, everybody? Yeah, my influences, I'm from Philadelphia, so we're like a real DJ culture heavy market. It's kind of like how people in DC wanted to be in a band growing up. We were more so wanting to be DJs. It's all pretty much about the 4 elements of hip hop. So we have like a huge lineage of DJs when it comes down to DJ Cash Money, DJ Jazzy Jeff, Jay Ski, who out of DJs outside of like other cities, like maybe New York or the West Coast, they weren't really technically there. You know what I'm saying? Compared to DJs. So we kind of like pride ourselves on our technical ability.
Yeah. Something that I feel when we were putting together this session and I was so curious about is really around the skill set in being a DJ. And I don't know how much, and because DJing has transitioned and has molded over the years, right? Where it's been popular depending on where you are, where the music genre you're playing, and sort of the vibe that you're creating. And Jahi, I'm curious from you, when you talk about sort of being a DJ, what are the actual sort of skills that a DJ possesses to like make them good, make them successful?
It all depends on where you're working. And I think in different places, there's different sets. But I think one of the things that people forget about, or at least one of the things that's overlooked, besides the stuff that you would always think of, which is like being up on music and music selection and being able to blend and mix and carry a flow and all that kind of stuff. Beyond all that, there's a certain set of personal skills that you have to have, and there's a certain level of personal sacrifice that you have to make in the beginning of your career to be a DJ that I think a lot of people aren't prepared for. And so a lot of people don't realize how much sacrifice is in the first 3 years or 2 years of DJing. Like it's definitely a a grind. It's a climb up. You know what I mean? And you have to have a lot of interpersonal skills, because dealing with promoters and club owners is not necessarily fun. So and dealing with them, you have to use a lot of finesse. And if you use finesse, you have a tendency to get more of what you want than with force.
Yeah. Domo, when Jahi's talking about sort of personal sacrifices having to be made as a DJ early on in career, what comes to mind when hearing that?
I mean, a lot of times I think he's talking about like the time you have to take to actually learn and dedicate to different sets of genres of music, not just the one that you prefer. Because I think that matters if you're going to be a professional, depending on what format you're playing in a DJ. I think that people kind of get dead set on one thing or one style, when really you need to learn it all. You need to learn how to play on everything, not just your controller or CDJs. You definitely need to learn turntables, even if it's not your preference. So I think he's definitely not into some of that, and probably 100 other things.
Where did you learn where did you learn those skills? We're talking about sort of everything it takes to be able to actually be a DJ and mix and use turntables. Where were you able to obtain those skills from?
I'm still, honestly, like, you're always learning. So that's the first thing. I think that's one rule of thumb as a DJ. You are always learning. So I'm absolutely like still a student of the game, 100%. I still consider myself an infant. I don't give myself too much credit ever. And honestly, like, how I've come into it was really like an anomaly. It wasn't even intentional. It just kind of happened. And then I was just like, all right, we're going to push forward. But I was self-taught at first. And then I had a mentor, DJ Face, who's one of Knife Wonders DJs. He's part of True School, so he's family to me. And he did a lot of showing me the way in the beginning. I spent a lot of time, and then I did actually do a DJ school at one point when I was really trying to unlearn some of the things that I was self-teaching that were really wrong, because there are a lot of shortcuts with this age right now, and I came in late, right? Like, so I came in under the digital age. I didn't come in with vinyl and turntables. I didn't have to, rely on my ear as much. I was definitely like reliant on some of those shortcuts. So to get away from that, or to try anyway, because I'm still guilty. I went to it's on the tip, Beat Junkies for like a season. So I spent like a season in LA with Beat Junkies to try to unlearn and try to get more comfortable with turntables and to really get away from some of those shortcuts.
Yeah. Oh, Omega, I'm curious, and I know about this, but I want to share with the audience sort of that, share with our participants today, like that transition from you sort of DJing and realizing, this is something that I'm good at, and producing something I like to do, to actually turning it into a full-blown career.
Well, it started with me via DJing. Like, DJing was the gateway drug into production, more so that it was like to be a DJ, and especially back in the times of like actually digging for records, literally digging for records, more so than going digitally digging for records. It was a point where you would find like very good instruments or very good sounds, and then that whole thing of how you would curate your set, it was just more so focusing on not just your set, but a particular song, and taking those elements. So instead of playing like, I know tonight I'm gonna have to play a little bit of reggae, old school hip trap music. I know how I'm gonna get this particular snare or the Spins 808, and it just, instead of me selecting records, I just select sounds for production.
Yes. I like that you brought up creative process and sort of and really curating your set. And I'm always curious about, how do DJs curate their set? Is it diving into who do you know is going to be the room and curating a set around that? Or do you sort of just stick to your own sort of guns and vibes and produce that into the space? And Jahi, I want to direct that question to you first. What is your creative process, and how do you curate a set?
Well, I'm old, so I started out in a different time, and during that different time, we had an advantage. That advantage was there was no computer. And when I say that, I mean the advantage was that you had to sit at your house before you left for the gig and decide what was getting played that night. If you didn't bring it, it couldn't be played. So it was a whole different aspect, an entirely different process of selection. And what I do now is when I have gigs that are important, I do the same exact thing. I sit at my house before the gig and I pull all the records into my preview crate or whatever before I go to the set, and I try to stick to those 150 records that I put in my preview thing, because that's my vision for that night. I try to stick to that instead of just scrolling through the endless 50,000 songs in the library, 80,000 songs in the library. And so that's kind of been my process forever, and it's still my process today.
Yeah. Domo, how about you? Your creative process in terms of preparing for a set?
I'm so grateful that I never had to carry vinyls. But yeah, it depends on the gig. You know, I feel like I DJ a lot of things that are from one place to another.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the gig. I try to get in the mindset of what I think that room is going to look like and prepare based on that. When I was first starting out, I used to plan out my whole set top to bottom, like the order of the track, because I would be so damn nervous about whatever I was going to play. Like, all right, this got to come after this, and this blends well with that. And it was like very kind of mechanical when I started. But I don't do that so much anymore. I create crates of music that fit different genres. And I don't necessarily have to do that every single time now, because I've played so much that I have so many dedicated crates that I just update, and then they become multi-purpose. But if it's something new, then I'll sit with it and do the same thing. Like, I'll prepare a new crate.
Yeah. Omega, is there a moment where you prepare a crate, or you prepare a set, and you get to the audience and it's just not hitting like you wanted to? Well, has that ever happened? And if so, what do you do?
So I kind of equate to things like that as kind of like a chef. You know, if you're cooking a meal for somebody, they might not like seasoning on it. You might have to bypass the seasoning for a certain crowd. But outside of that, you kind of get your recipe, and what spices work, what ingredients taste good. You know what I mean? So any type of meal, whether it be, vegan, whatever, it could happen, but you just got to know your recipes. So what I mean by know your recipes is kind of like you got to have your crates in order. You got to know your music. So at the end of the day, you can prepare all you want. But depending on the type of people that come in the room is really going to determine what you're going to play.
Yeah.
What we should talk about is how you prepare and then you get in the room and realize there's a totally different group of people in there.
Yeah.
But again, you might have to bypass all that. But if you prepare
have you ever
properly,
been in a room where you couldn't bypass though? Have you ever
no,
been? Because I was there.
There's certain things that always work. There's certain things that always work, like Michael Jackson.
No.
Certain things always work.
I disagree.
A few times. I'm not gonna hold you. I've been set up a few times. I'm not even gonna say what company set me up like that, but I was set up a couple times, and I get into the room and I was like, I think these people want to hear rap.
So
I'm gonna risk it all right now because.
And then you do it, and because that's what they're saying. That's what they want. Johnny, what are you adding here?
This is real talk. I got booked for a gig. It was a holiday party for a big hotel company.
Okay.
And I thought I had done their holiday party the year before, but apparently what I didn't know is they have 2 holiday parties on the same night, because it's a hotel company in California. One group is pretty much all Mexican. And the other group is the rest of the employees. The year before, I had DJ'd the rest of the employees' party.
Right.
They booked me the next year. I think it's the same party.
Yeah.
I show up. I'm in a ballroom with 600 Mexican people.
Well, you better suavemente, Rosalita.
No, I only have, let's say, 30 minutes of solid where I can go in on the hits.
Solid Latin music.
Other than that, Mexican music is completely different from New York Latin music. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even any other, they got their own stuff with the tubas and the accordions. I don't got none of those records. I had to get a dude from the audience to plug his plug his phone in,
Yeah.
and that's how I DJ'd the rest of that party. Was two dudes from the audience with two phones going back and forth, and I broke them off like some cash, and that's how I did the rest of the party.
Wow.
I mean, and that's what you got to know as a DJ. You got to know how to pivot. If you don't know how to pivot, this is not the industry for you.
Pivot is
Because you
the
will
word
end
for
up in those
people.
times.
Yeah.
Or times where your equipment fails on you. Like in the middle, you know, it's all technology until your computer crashed in the middle of a set. Now you got to figure out how you're going to play your music off a USB, somebody's phone, and still kind of keep the groove going. So, you know, I feel that 120%.
Well, that brings up a good point. Like, what are because Dominic, you're talking about you missed the era of like carrying vinyls, which I don't know what that looks like, Johnny. Is that a backpack? Is that a wagon? Like,
Whoa.
Literally crazy.
It's literally crazy.
It's crates, milk crates, big old heavy milk crates.
If you were the solo DJ doing 1 4-hour party, you had to bring 3 crates and 1 bag to do that night. You need 3 crates and 1 bag. Each crate holds about 75 to 100 records, weighs about 100 fucking pounds, weighs about 100 pounds, and will break your back. And if you have to travel with it, then you have to go on the plane. You have to take 3 extra pieces of luggage plus a bag of records. It's a whole nother world, man. A whole nother world.
And now fast forward, Domo, you got your laptop bag and a few other pieces. So what is preparing?
And an external hard drive. I'm so thankful.
Life is good.
So what is the backup though? What is because you all mentioned it earlier, but like you're bringing your computer, but how do you prepare for all these sort of challenges that might happen? What is the backup of your computer?
Honestly, like I have 2 mixes that I typically have on a USB jump sometimes and an alternative device. So I carry a laptop, an iPad, and my phone, and I always have jump drives with control discs on them just in case. And I carry my mix, a clean mix and a dirty one, depending on the crowd. And if something happens, then I can cue that up on another device. Yeah. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like we can still make it shake. But yeah, like the preparation and just being able to kind of switch gears. Because I pulled up to venues and then they not have the equipment that they said they had either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or like I'm DJing with another DJ who's more senior who had the equipment changed. Because that's happened to me too. And I was just like, well, shit, this is what we're doing today. Oh, sorry. Are we not supposed to cuss? Are these adults here?
It's preferred not
to. It's for the babies. It's for the babies.
So let me ask you all this because I want to transition our conversation to talking about specifically culture. And Omega, I think you and I don't know if you remember this, but we had this conversation when we first met. But what do you feel as a DJ's responsibility to culture, to sort of either whether it's influence or whether it's enhance what's already happening? What do you feel like a DJ's place is in that?
I feel in the grand sense, we need to be teachers, at least at a certain element, especially if you reach a stature where, you know, you were able to provide for yourself and possibly your family. With this, it's like a trade. I feel like you would need to pass it on. I feel like it's all about your legacy as a DJ. And just like how Domo said, she was like, yo, if it wasn't for, you know, this certain DJ, I want to be who I was, or if it wasn't for the beach, learning stuff from another DJ, I want to be who I was. So it's more so like you got to pass the jewels along. Like I came from a generation where nobody wanted to give the goods because the information wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? So people kind of felt like gatekeepers, like, oh, if you want to learn this flare scratch, you're going to have to hang with me for 6 weeks and, you know, pretty much haze you up to learn a technique now that you can go on YouTube and teach yourself. You know what I'm saying? Or that, you know, certain crowds might not even care if you could do that. But at the end of the day, I'm always a person that, you know, I'm the type to carry on the culture. Like you can't be mad at Domo for fucking, for DJing on a controller because that's what she was introduced into the game with. You know what I'm saying? So you would have to, you know, meet her.
Argument too. I think it's so stupid. I think like OG DJs who come from turntables shouldn't argue with the young kids that don't come from it. But I see that argument a lot, and it's so goofy. It's just like, bruh, we recognize the barrier to entry has been lowered with technology. We get it, but this is where we are with everything, literally virtually everything. The same way you don't want to have to go to a library to read every book, you know, you can pull it up on your phone and learn whatever you got to learn without digging through the archives of some some other place. It's like, it's the same thing with this too. It's just kind of like, you know, people got to get over that. But at the same time, like, people coming in have to respect where it's come from.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be like knowledge, but without any compassion from the OGs. Like if there is such a divide between, you know, the OGs, like, oh, you can't, you know, what's that? That's cheating. That's da da da. That's just somebody who might be embittered with their own self and situation. You know what I'm saying? I feel that, you know, you got to have compassion when it comes to newer artists as DJs, because we don't just only perform for people. Now we're doing production. Now we're doing other things. You know, there was a time where if you wanted to be DJ Premier, or, you know what I'm saying, wanted to be you would have to really sit under Preem and be like, yo, what record did you sample this from? Or, you know, what record did you do that from? But now you can get a DJ Premier kit and sound just like Premier in 10 minutes on it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's the beauty of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like for DJs, especially for the, you know, and this is like for this, you know, the older heads, is like, hey, who are you if you didn't teach anybody anything? You know what I'm saying? Like there's DJs whole career that you based off my, you know what I mean, based off my influence, based off what I've shown them. You know what I'm saying? And I've been blessed enough that all that, what I feel like my mentees has always bigged me up. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, and that's what it's about, because my legacy, my impact on my market and the culture of DJing is only has any weight if someone else is like, he's dope. You know what I'm saying? So like, if my youngins don't scream my name, then who am I? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I could only scream my name for so long.
Fair. You all have been able to accomplish a lot in your careers, and I want to talk about all of your accomplishments. But before we dive into it, I want to know from you all sort of, what do you feel has been sort of the biggest accomplishment, or the thing that you're proudest of as a DJ? And Jahi, we'll start with you.
Well, I had like a turning point in my career where I went from doing mostly clubs. I was in New York 5 nights a week, all around Manhattan, Brooklyn. And I was, and then 9/11 happened. And then all the clubbing stopped, all the work stopped for about 8 months. Everything was closed. So similar to this state we're in now, I kind of went through one of these already, you know, with my career. And what was dope about it was I was DJing at, right when stuff was opening back up, I was DJing at Hotel Chelsea. And Michelle and Ocello came in, and she heard me play, and she was like, you should open up for I'm doing like 2-week tour, you should open up for it. And I was like, cool. I started opening up, and then she said, well, why don't you stay on stage when we play and see what you can do? And I was like, okay. And I stayed on stage, and the first night I tried to do the same thing that every other DJ that you see with a band does, which is scratches on the 4th measure. You know what I mean? It's a fill scratch. It's like the song's coming around, and then you go wick wicky woo, wick wicky woo, and then it goes around again, and then you go wick wicky woo, wick wicky woo again, and then it goes around. This is kind of the format for DJs with bands. If you look at the integration of the DJ into the band, it's like band, 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 band. DJ does a scratch, band, 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 band. DJ does a scratch, bam, 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 bam. So out with Michelle, I was trying to find a creative way. I come from a musical family, and I was trying to find a creative way to really be different and do something different. So I bought a few effects processors, and I started experimenting with those and running the turntables through those. I had my turntables set up through a wah-wah pedal at one point. I had them set up through a couple of manual effects processors that I was playing with. And through that process, that she allowed me to experiment on stage, on tour, not in rehearsal, on gigs. I was totally messing up on gigs, like blasting through with the wrong sound effect at the wrong time. But she allowed this space for me because she's a master musician, and she saw my potential. And I'd say the thing that I'm the most proud of in DJing is I honestly feel like I've invented a new style of DJing. And if you see me play with the bands that I play with, and you hear the work that I've done on the Robert Glasper albums over the last 10 years, you will hear my sound. And my sound is unlike any other DJ in the market. If you see me play live, what I'm doing with a live band is unlike any other DJ that I've ever seen in my life. And that's the thing that I'm the most proud of. The fact that I was able to creatively come up with a new way to DJ with other musicians and have those musicians who are the greatest musicians in the world look at me like I'm a musician on their level is my greatest accomplishment.
Yes, I love the lean back as the story ends. Omega, your proudest moment, your greatest accomplishment. What say you?
I mean, bro, I don't know. I feel like I always have a great accomplishment, like, you know, when you really get a crowd in the zone. You know, I've toured with artists, I've musically directed artists whole tours and stuff like that. I produced, you know, albums for artists, you know, that changed the trajectory of their career. I guess what's up, Doug? I guess one of the major things, I got Jerry Seinfeld to do a album with Wale, and no one believed it could have been done until I had him in the studio to do it. So, you know, that's probably like one of the dopest things, because they don't expect a Jewish millionaire to ever do a album with a rapper from DC. But you know what I mean? It's all about the pitch. Again, it's all about your, like how Josh said, it's all about your interpersonal relationships. If you know how to finesse, if you know how to move, and if you know how to make things seem attractive, then yeah, it can happen, and anything can happen. And I feel like from there kind of gave me the mind state of like I could do anything. That it gave me my little Kanye moment, I guess. That you feel you could do anything in this world.
I feel like that moment's like really indicative of sort of what DJs do, right? Now, aside from sort of playing music and playing the hits and influencing cultures, you're really creating this space for everyone to share this one unified moment. No matter where you come from or what you're doing or what happened outside this club, we are all here and together and united because of this DJ and the music that they're playing. So I definitely think that you being able to collaborate Wale with Jerry Seinfeld makes total sense to me. It makes total sense to me to bring those worlds together as a DJ. Domo, how about yourself? Your greatest accomplishment, proudest moment?
I don't know. I've had a few. I would say like at the top it would be DJing for the president. Not Trump.
Oh, we knew.
We know.
We figured that.
I would say that that's definitely like a headliner. I would say, and that came kind of early on, which was really crazy for me. So that was a moment, and that he acknowledged me in the room. I don't have pictures or video from that moment, but we were on very exclusive paperwork. But that was probably one of my landmark moments. And then just, I don't know, I've shared some stages with some legends I would have never imagined. So I DJ'd a crazy lineup with Rap Caviar that had like Meg Thee Stallion, Mulatto, Sweetie, and like 6 other crazy rap girls that was just like, we'll probably never see them all on the stage like that again. So I would definitely put those 2 moments at the top.
Yeah. Can we dive a little deep? Because these are two huge moments in your career, and I've already prompted myself to talk about them. So let's dive deeper, right? So this moment where you're performing with the president comes into your career at a certain time. But what I want to focus on is something that we talk about in these sessions a lot, and there's mixed reviews, is that a lot of artists and music industry professionals are always either pursuing education as their route to success and all for it, go to college, get a degree, and then sort of pursue what you want to pursue. And then really on the creative side, it's sort of when you get that moment, take it. School will always be there. Now, I know that you were working a full-time job while also getting this gig. So I want you to talk about sort of that decision to leave that job and pursue this full-time.
Look at you doing your damn homework. Wow.
Yes.
Come on, DeMarco. They need to give you a raise.
Yes, they say
yeah, I was, before I started DJing full time, I used to be an energy policy analyst for the U.S. Department of Energy. During the Obama administration, which was very full circle to be DJing for him, given the capacity in which I technically used to work for him before. So yeah, I started DJing a year before I quit my policy analyst job. I was doing it on the side. it wasn't really something that I was intending to be full-time or thought could be full-time. Where I came from and the way that I was raised, I was not told or encouraged to pursue any creative career or passion. It was not something that was told to me that you could do or achieve or have. It was always the struggling artist. You'll never have stability, which was a personal fear of mine just based on my own upbringing, because I do come from the mud. I'm very, very proud to say that, but it was tough, and it definitely, I think, put a layer of fear on me that didn't put me in position to pursue the things that I loved, because I didn't think that they would be things that would sustain me. So that being said, when I started DJing, it was an outlet, because if I'm being full disclosure, because I don't mind, I was at one of the most difficult transitions in my life and was really depressed, and I needed somewhere to put my energy that was much more positive. And I had always been a creative person, always wanted to DJ, but didn't think that it was something I never saw women do. And some of the people who I was closest to, who I was looking to get encouragement or support from, were not supportive. And some of them were other DJs, because I was around a lot of DJs coming up. They were all men, and they were not necessarily very supportive when I showed interest. So it just wasn't, it was something that I ended up pursuing as a default when I was looking for solace, and it gave me that. And then I just started to find my place with it. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm about to be a DJ, I'm trying to be famous or popular or like anything. It was just, I love music. I needed an outlet to put that. And then it turned into its own thing naturally. And then I didn't have any control over that.
Yeah. You mentioned that, and I know a lot of what you do is really rooted in the East Coast, and specifically in that DMV area. And I'm wondering, from Omega and Jahi, you both were on the East Coast, born and raised on the East Coast, and then moved to the West Coast. Is there a certain market or certain region that DJing is more popular or more lucrative, or did you just make that decision because you want to be in LA? Jahi, go ahead, Omega. We can't hear you. What you're saying we feel it's powerful.
Check. Can you hear me? All right. So basically, at least for, I know anyone, I guess DC can attest to, DC up to Rhode Island can see that, our season is limited, even though like the clubs are open in certain markets, and they, at least like in New York, they stay open all night or just to 4, but essentially when the winter time goes, everybody slows down, and you had to live from March to, November, or I'll say holiday season. After the holiday burst, then your January, February, unless you're doing like corporate gigs or like moving around the country, East Coast gigs are slow. So for me, it was like, all right, I was already accustomed to seeing the world touring. So instead of me going home to Philly where work might be all right, go to LA where there's work every day of the week, or pre-COVID work every day of the week.
Yeah. How about you, Jahi?
I moved out here to produce an album, and when I got here, 2 weeks after I got here, I got fired before we even started producing the album. And so then I was like, well, I'm here for a month, let me hang out. So I hung out for a little bit, and I saw some of the homies, and then I ended up securing the DJ spot in Sarah, and then we ended up going on tour with Kanye. And so then I was like, I'm gonna stay. So then I just stayed, and here I am. That's kind of why I came here, but I got here 13 years ago, but the music business was leaving New York. The real estate squeeze was super real. And so all the studios were closing. My interests beyond being a DJ is being a producer.
Yeah.
And the idea of producing records in New York had become very oppressive in terms of space, in terms of opportunity, in terms of recording community. And so I'm, being here has just been great for me, in all those ways.
Necessary. There's also something that I have recognized that unites all of you on this call, as well as that your passion and your charge for activism. And I think you all have brought causes that are very close and near to your heart and to your experience, and I wanted to talk about those in this conversation. And Domo, we're starting with you again. But I want you to share sort of your activism and how it's important to who you are as not only a person, but your brand, and then share what it's about and how it came about as well.
So many feelings about activism. It's not even funny. I don't like to call myself an activist. I feel like I have to speak up because I don't have a choice. It's not an option. I feel like as a woman, as a Black woman, you know, we're just frequently the least protected. And that being said, like, you know, it's not really, I don't have any choice but to be outspoken about the things I care about. And then by default, you end up becoming this activist, which is really, really interesting. I don't know how to explain it. But it's not something that I attach to my brand. It's nothing like that. I think that people will package it up however they want, and I don't really care about that. But it at its core, I'm just speaking up about the shit I care about when I feel like it. You know, and when I don't feel like it, then I don't say shit. Yeah. And when I do feel like it, then I'm real loud. So to be an activist to me is very complex because I think that it gives you another sense of responsibility that I don't necessarily know that everyone handles with care. So I don't handle that title lightly as much as I don't handle the title of a DJ lightly. When I first started DJing outward, like in not out of sight of my bedroom, I would not allow people to call me a DJ. I wouldn't, if they were putting my name on something or flyer or something like that. I was like, don't put, and even still, I still don't do it because I don't care to have that in front of my name. But it's not something that, it's a title that has a lot of weight to it. And I think that people should handle their titles with care. And because I believe that if you're going to call yourself an activism, you need to understand all the things that go with it. And I wouldn't necessarily peg myself as that, as outspoken as I am. It's the same way I feel about DJing.
Yeah. Jahi, how about you with everything that's sort of been happening? Just, I mean, even before we got into the pandemic, but especially now that we have been in this pandemic, how has activism played a role in who you are and in your career?
Well, for me, I try to do my participation on that because I was real public with it younger in life. I was leading marches. I was in the newspaper. I was doing all that, leading walkouts in high school. And
this is the part where we would cue to the flashback where we would show clips of you
montage. But since then, you know, getting a little older, I try to put my political stuff directly into my work. So, for example, we were in Brazil on tour about a year and a half ago, and I went around in the street talking to people about Bolsonaro, and he's the Brazilian Trump, if you don't know, and he's the president there now. He's running the country, and he's very bad. And so I did street interviews with them, and I would record the interviews, and then I would give them tickets to the show. And then later on that night, they came to the show. Me and Robert did a section where he was playing, and I was playing all these anti-Bolsonaro clips over his piano, and the trio was getting in there, and it was, because it's jazz, it's wide open, and we can come up with stuff. And so these people got a chance to hear themselves inside of the National Opera House in Rio, speaking against the president. And when this happened, the officials from the government who were at the concert got up and walked out.
Oh, wow.
And this is kind of where my activism is at. Like, I'm really into directly putting it into the art. So we just did a show at Kennedy Center that I just posted on my socials that I think goes up next week. But in that show is an entire segment about all the killings from this summer, all the police involved killings from this summer. And that section is all me. It's all clips that I got from the news or clips I got from YouTube that I then paste together with different sound effects and different textures over the top of some soulful stuff and amazing stuff that Robert is doing.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And Omega, I know that you, something that's always been a passion of yours is really working with young people, and you've been a huge advocate for doing that with Music For. But I'm wondering, how does activism play a role in your career as well?
In terms of, I've always stayed militant minded, and that's just how I was raised. But
We're back.
Hold on. Okay. Yeah, my bad. People calling. But yeah, I always remained militant minded growing up. That's just how I was raised. But in the sense of the times of what we have been experiencing over the past couple months, you know, the call to action was needed. And I feel like because that call to action was needed, we had to participate. Definitely. It was only right. It was our duty as you know, I mean, men and women of our culture. With that, I co-founded an organization, Walk Good LA, with my brother Etienne Maurice, and
Etienne's your brother?
not my blood brother, my brother. Yes, my brother.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But yes. So me and Etienne formed Walk Good LA. We're an organization out here. We activate weekly, doing runs, yoga walks, town halls every Saturday, and we've been activating for about 15, 16 weeks now, just to build a community. We have a listserv of over 5,000, you know, people of the cause, and it's just great to have that community out here and just to be able to spread information and spread education to people who might not have been totally politically focused or just aware of things that affect us in Los Angeles and statewide, nationwide. So just doing that to bring awareness. And if anybody in the LA area want to come out, we do yoga in the park on Sundays, and then we do the town hall every Saturday at LA High Memorial Park.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you all so much for sharing that information and just being so diligent in the work that you do. One question that we've got from the audience, and it's always interesting because we're given our birth names, right? We don't have any choice in that. Our parents name us what they want us to be, and then we live our lives, right? But when it comes to DJing, you all have DJ names. So I want to talk about the origin of those DJ names and sort of what went into deciding that. And Jahi, will start with you, because I'm not actually sure if you even go by DJ Sundance.
I'll go first because mine's the easiest.
Yes.
And it's the most boring. Mine is my birth name. My name is Jahi Sundance Lake. That is my name that my parents gave me. That is the name that I use for DJing. I got blessed. I got given a gift, and I didn't have to work for my name at all. But I will tell you something embarrassing. My first DJ name was DJ Arrow.
Why did you make? We're not done. You're not gonna drop that bomb and think that we're done. Where made you transition to using your birth name?
Well, I was only DJ Arrow when I first got my turntables. I got one turntable for Christmas, and then I went and worked at a job at a record store to buy my second turntable. For that period of time, bedroom time, I was DJ Arrow. Then once I did my first gig, I was like, no, I have a great name. I'm just going to use my regular name.
Okay, lucky you. Domo, is it a similar story? How about you?
I thought mine was going to be the simplest and the most boring because Domo is just short for Dominique.
Yeah.
So it's my name. I've been Domo since I was a kid around the way. So Domo has always been my name. So there's nothing special about it. Honestly, I feel like all the OGs took the cool DJ names. There's no making them cool again. I've rarely seen a new DJ with a cool name. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm so tired of these weird ass. I'm not calling you some weird DJ names out here. I'm just like, bruh.
Like where did it come from? Oh my god.
I had a friend who was gonna name himself DJ Frustration with a PH, and I was like, bro, do not name yourself after a negative emotion.
Yeah.
This is a terrible strategy.
Oh my God. Omega, how about you? Tell us about the origin of your name.
So I grew up in the church, and one of my favorite Bible verses is Revelation 1:8, where pretty much Jesus comes back, and when he comes back, he's telling everybody that, hey, y'all, you know, I'm the Alpha, I'm the Omega, the beginning and the end. And during that time was around 98, and that's when the Source magazine said, like, this was like the pinnacle of hip hop. This is the golden age of hip hop. So I figured that, like, hey, well, this is gonna be the golden age of hip hop. I'm gonna be the finisher. I'm gonna end it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where it came from in my 13-year-old mind.
Yeah. Is there, Johnny, you mentioned like do not name yourself after a negative feeling, right? Are there any other pieces of advice around creating a DJ name that any of you have for our audience?
Nicknames and names that work are usually never never self-declared. Almost, it's very rare.
Yeah.
It's super rare. Like if all of your friends call you something, that should be your DJ name. Like
Okay.
you should go with what's working.
Yeah.
That's my best advice.
Right. And there's an audience that comes with that, right? You already know me by this. I'm not starting a new brand. It's like trying to switch in the middle of everything. Let's talk about life in quarantine and life in this pandemic and how your careers have been shifted. And Omega, we're gonna start with you because you're living your best life outside, but you're also setting up for an event. So tell the people what you're doing now and how gigs been now that we're in this new space.
I mean, yeah, like personally, like, you know, this is my rooftop. So, I mean, I've quarantine's been all right. But in terms of just not being able to DJ for people, like in the extent I want to, you know, doing clubs, doing parties, just everybody losing it, having a good time, sweating, dancing, you know, all that, you know, that's kind of what I miss most about everything due to COVID. It's just, you know, it's one of the sad things we're going to have to strap down and get over until we're allowed, you know what I mean, until we can kind of take care of this virus and get back out.
Yeah. How about you, Jahi?
Quarantine for me was strange. I come from like a world of gigs that is not based on club life. Most of my gigs are touring with musicians, and so all the tours got canceled, and everybody I knew wasn't doing anything. So we all did nothing. And then I got on YouTube and I did a weekly mix series. So there's 17 of those. It's called the Black Radio Broadcast. It's on YouTube. There's 17 1-hour mixes up there. So I did that for 17 weeks. And since then, gigs have been back on since like September. We went to Detroit. I just got back from DC, did Kennedy Center, and then I did some with Denzel Curry last weekend down in Lamert Park.
Cool.
And that was cool. But that was a tape. Everything I'm describing is all tapings for streaming stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not audience stuff. It's all tapings for streaming stuff with small audiences that may have been like tested or before.
Right.
Or something. Yeah. So I'm kind of nervous, man. Quarantine life has me nervous. I don't know what's gonna happen. I also feel like I'm gonna be one of those people who doesn't have an option when it comes to the vaccine. To get a little political here, like I feel like all of us DJs who want to travel, we want to use our passports. We're all gonna have to get vaccinated. This is gonna be a weird little moment for everybody. We're all gonna have to make some choices here.
Yeah, there'll definitely be, I think, a divide in terms of those who are ready to go back to the real world and those of us who are like, we're gonna wait on it. We're gonna wait on it a little bit. I want to talk about, because I know the biggest thing from this conversation, something that I want to make sure that came out of it was like booking the actual gig, right? And so we always have the conversation around artists and how they're able to connect with gigs, and it's about whether they put their music on Spotify or Apple, or they've got a manager, they're in the right place at the right time. Domo, when it comes to booking gigs, and I know it's probably different now than when you first started out, but what is that process in terms of being able to say, hey, I'm Domo and I'm good and I'm qualified, book me?
My bad. I mean, for me, it wasn't a lot of outreach because like I said in the beginning, I wasn't trying to do this on a, like, I'm trying to be a professional. It was really like, I kind of was doing my own thing, and how doing my own thing really just led people to reaching out to me mostly. So at the point where I am now, because things kind of escalated quickly, like people would reach out to me to do certain things, and depending on if I was aligned with it would be the factor of whether or not I would do it. You know what I'm saying? And budget also, if it matters depending on who's asking. So if it's something that I genuinely want to do, the budget may not matter. Versus like something that I care about, a group of people that I care about, a nonprofit organization who's doing substantive work, or just, you know, someone whose artistry I admire and I feel comfortable partnering with. Like if they reach out, the budget may not matter. But if it's like a big company who I know, you know, has it, then that's when, you know, numbers matter more, I think. But to be honest, like I don't do a lot of shopping myself. I don't do that a lot. Right now I think I'm in a real transitional phase with my career and DJing specifically, where I say no to more things because I don't feel like I need to be chasing after every gig. I want to be in alignment with the things that I should be doing
Yeah.
for. But I also like this digital stuff is not I don't, you know, I'm not that into it.
Yeah.
It's not my jam. I don't think it's most of our jam. So I haven't been forcing myself to perform digitally
Yeah.
or on IG Live or Twitch or anything. Like if it's something that I really want to do, I'll do it. But outside of that, like I'm not for. I felt halfway through this quarantine to like really pressure myself into doing something. Just like, oh, I feel so unproductive or whatever. But maybe for me, that's what it's supposed to be right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, like when it comes to booking gigs, I'm not shopping myself. I'm just now kind of entertaining a manager, which this entire time I have not had.
Okay.
So it'll be her responsibility to start fielding stuff.
Yeah.
But up until this point, that hasn't really been a thing that I've had to do, thankfully.
Cool. Jahi, were you gonna add something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I felt the same way about the IG Live. I never did it, and the other stuff, I didn't do it. I did the YouTube mix that was weekly. It wasn't live. I was making the mixes in my crib, you know, at the studio, and then posting them up, and so it had a different feeling. It felt like I was making a mixtape every week, which had a good feeling to me because I used to make mixtapes when I was in high school, and that was fun.
Yes. Domo, what you were talking about reminds me of sort of when we talk with artists, we talk on other sessions, somehow the conversation always brings up tons of rights and what you own and what you're able to play. And in the DJ space, are you, the sets that you curate, are you owning those sets? Are they like, can someone just take it and play it and duplicate it and play it somewhere else and it's theirs? Like, how do you sort of own your stuff and no one else can touch it? If that makes any sense.
I mean, I see Sundance shaking his head. He should unmute and tag me. Honestly, like once you put something on the internet, anybody can strip that thing and play it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what happens when you put anything on the internet, even your own photos. Like I found people, and it's really weird because I am no one. I'm not that. It's not that.
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying, like, I'm no one. So for someone to like even take your pictures and like pretend, like that's a thing too, you know. So I think that the moment you put something on the internet, you're welcoming people to take it and do whatever they please, and that is exactly what will happen. And I don't have any real feelings about that because I mean, I'm not a producer, so the mixes that I'm making are always other people's music. I'm always, you know what I'm saying. So it's not. I don't have that sort of attachment to it. It would be really funny to learn if someone was taking my mixes and playing them and pretending to DJ. That would be like really, really funny to me. Cause I mean, of all the DJs you could steal a mix from, you're going to steal them from me when I'm not even like, you know, I'm cool or whatever. But I mean,
if they look at the gigs you're doing, then they might steal your mix. Come on. Don't act like you ain't doing dope gigs. You doing dope gigs.
That's weird though.
Yeah. So Omega, what about you?
It's very weird.
Yeah. Omega, what about you as a producer? What is sort of owning your stuff come into play and how do you do that?
It's a double-edged sword because again, you want other people to play your music. That's how it's going to get out there and gain awareness and stuff like that. So again, like Domo said, like you don't really feel a way. And I've been in places where I heard my drop before on a mix, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe they had a record where, you know, it was an exclusive record.
Omega, hold on. How do you feel about that? Because I play other DJs mixes all the time. Like, I mean, like their remix of a song. Like,
exactly. So like, just like you would hear somebody else's, just like you would hear DJ Mustard drop on a song. It don't matter. It makes it raises your profile at the end of the day. I feel like all that hierarchy and bitterness, that's kind of like an old archetype of where DJs used to kind of like caste system each other, like, oh, you don't know how to scratch, well, you're not allowed in my little club, or oh, you don't know how to do this, then you're not in my little club, or oh, you play other people's mixes, you're not a real DJ. At the end of the day, they have video games that teach people how to DJ. So
who don't care to engage the OGs, I think.
I mean, why would you? If you know, that's not like, however anyone feels about you is not going to affect you getting booked. You know what I'm saying? If you're getting booked and you're successful, then who are they? What's really their opinion? The true opinion lies in the people who's actually booking these events. You know what I'm saying? So if and again, going back to other DJs, if you feel like, you know, the culture is shifting in a certain way, it's because you didn't have enough compassion to raise somebody in the culture to know, to have respect for a culture. You know what I'm saying? Like the younger DJs respect the older DJs when they're taught, you know what I'm saying, about DJ. When they know the history, then they have respect and admiration for it. But you can't, you know, beat up on someone who doesn't know. And if and again, if I just started and I had a $500, you know what I'm saying, maybe I wouldn't have worked at McDonald's for a summer to get my Technic 1200s. I would have got a controller. I would have started doing every house party in the neighborhood, and that's how I would have built my name up. And then it grew and evolved from there. And that would have had nothing to do with an older DJ or somebody who's a purist or somebody who's like, you're not respecting the four elements of hip hop because you didn't follow the correct process. If no one taught you that, then you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. But you know, you're talking to somebody who was taught from Jazzy Jeff, taught from these older dudes who again, they'll be on a controller too. So once I seen Jazzy Jeff on a controller,
Jeff is the
you know,
first person. Jeff is the earliest adopter of every DJ technology I've ever seen. He was the first person I saw with the needleless turntables. The first person who did
the rain joints.
He adopts all that stuff so early.
Well, except for the young people before him who was using that shit out the gate. Yeah. So like,
I mean, yeah, but I mean, there's a difference between the 500 starter controllers and then the rain. I mean, the DJ turntable emulated controller that Rain produced. But my thing is, if you can still put out the same sound, no one cares. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, like at your house party or for your crowd, the only thing I judge DJs on is that if I go to their party and as long as their transitions are solid and their selection is cool, then they're good with me. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that, you know, you can't ask for really nothing else because you know there's certain people who DJ just to, you know, what I mean, set a vibe, and there's other DJs who are artists with their shit. You know what I'm saying? And I feel through, you know, you'll see that through time. Like the DJs who are just in it to get a check, or DJs who are just in it to be a passing fad, they usually fall by the wayside. DJs who are really dedicated to their craft and are able to take their brand and put it in a sense of artistry, they're the ones who stick around anyway. So I'm not really concerned. You know what I mean?
We're at 3:59, so I have to close this conversation, which I feel like deserves a part two. But I want to close it out with this last question, and thinking about, I asked it to all of our panelists, but thinking about your younger DJ self, what is the advice you would give to that person? And Jahi, we'll start with you.
This is very specific for me.
Yeah.
But it might apply to other people. The advice I would give to my younger DJ self is do not have any partners. You can do it you can do it. Okay. You don't need the partners that you thought you needed.
Okay. Domo, how about you?
I think it would have been to take the leap earlier, you know, to not let other people discourage me.
Do you feel like you're playing catch up in a sense, or do you feel like you're at the space you need to be in as a DJ?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore. I don't feel that way. But I think in the beginning when things started to move in a direction and I was like, well, shit, I could have been doing this sooner. You know, why did I wait so long?
Yeah.
But it's also like, I believe people's paths and timelines are their own. So there's no such thing as too late. As much as I still do wish that, I accept that this was the timeline that I was supposed to be on.
Yes. Omega, last but not least, close us
out. One thing I would say to the younger DJs, if I would have knew earlier, I would have told my younger self to get your bread together, make sure you have a piggy bank in a sense of an investment. I feel we all do this because we love to do it, and then it's kind of like we do it until we can get paid for it. But if you're able to accumulate some other type of funds to have, you know, a certain amount of money to make sure your equipment's right, make sure your marketing and promotion's right, you can exponentially skip a whole bunch of steps that you would have to. And I say this because like I've worked under other DJs and worked under other people growing up as a teenager, where if I had my own money, I would have been able to make the plays I could have made, or took the flight I needed to go to get the gig, or because there's certain times in your career that you're going to have to make particular sacrifices on a financial end. And if you have that money there already, then you're going to be able to achieve it. And just like you have to take this as serious as anyone would take it in starting a new business. No business can thrive or move without initial capital. So for all the young guys, getting there, I know you might have ripped all the VSTs off the internet, and most of the stuff. Shoot, the music's free, everything's free, but definitely put a budget aside and start to learn how to do a budget. One of the major things that I feel is a blessing is that I got my LLC and all of my business acumen tied in together. So if a pandemic or anything else hits, I was first in line to receive a bunch of stuff because I paid my taxes, because I, handled the business element of my career rather than it being a hobby that, I'm able to sustain myself and my family off of. I think having your business together and having some capital set aside to make the marketing promotion moves that you would need to make to differentiate yourself from other DJs in your market, that's one of the major keys that I would have gave myself at a younger age.
That's well said. Thank you all so much for being here today and having this conversation with me. I truly enjoyed it, and I know that our audience did today as well. Thank you to our audience for always being dedicated to Music Forward and showing up for our industry sessions. Just a reminder for everyone, we are off for next week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll pick back up the following week. Domo, Jahi, Omega, thank you so much for being here. And until next time, we will talk later.
Thanks for having us, man.
No problem.
And if any of you guys want to reach out, just reach out to me. My socials is in the chat.
Perfect.
Yeah, mine too.
Thank you, everybody.